You can't find your keys again. For a split second, a wave of panic washes over you. You start to wonder, is this just a normal part of getting older? Or is it a sign of something more? That's a question so many of us start to ask ourselves or worry about in our loved ones. And that fear, that quiet uncertainty, is exactly what we're going to clear up today. For most of us, some memory changes are a completely normal and expected part of aging. But some changes are different. Some changes deserve a closer look. In this video, we'll walk through 10 specific warning signs of memory issues that warrant a conversation with your doctor. But just as importantly, we'll help you tell them apart from the completely normal, everyday forgetfulness we all experience. By the end of this video, you'll have a much clearer understanding of what to look out for, what to take seriously, and when to seek guidance. This isn't about creating fear. It's about providing clarity and empowering you with knowledge. Because knowing is always better than worrying. AV, we live in a world where health information is everywhere, and it can be overwhelming. Terms like dementia and Alzheimer's are thrown around a lot, but often without a clear explanation of what they really mean in the early stages. It's estimated that in 2025, over 7 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's, and that number is projected to keep growing. But what does the beginning of that journey actually look like? It rarely starts with a dramatic, movie-like moment of confusion. Instead, it begins with small, subtle shifts. Our goal today is to give you the tools to recognize those shifts. This information is based on the consensus of leading health organizations like the Alzheimer's Association and the National Institute on Aging. We're here to translate their clinical guidance into real-world, practical examples that you can connect to your own life or the life of someone you care about. So, let's get started and calmly, clearly, and carefully look at the first warning sign. Let's start with the sign everyone knows, but that's also widely misunderstood: memory loss. Here's the thing: not all memory loss is created equal. There's a huge difference between an occasional slip-up and a pattern of memory loss that starts to get in the way of your daily life and independence. First, let's talk about what's completely normal. Age-related memory change is usually about occasional forgetfulness. For instance, you might forget the name of an acquaintance at the grocery store, but it comes to you later that evening. Or maybe you misplace your reading glasses only to find them on top of your head. We've all walked into a room and thought, "Now, what did I come in here for?" These are usually retrieval problems. The memory is in your brain, but you're having a little trouble accessing it. Think of it like a file in a cabinet that's just a bit stuck. With a little time or a reminder, you can usually pull it open. This kind of forgetfulness can be annoying, but it doesn't stop you from living your life. You still pay your bills, get to your appointments, and manage your day. Now, let's compare that to a warning sign. The memory loss tied to conditions like Alzheimer's is different. It's persistent, it gets worse over time, and it disrupts your daily life. This isn't about forgetting where you put your keys. It's about forgetting what your keys are for, even just for a moment. This isn't just about blanking on a name. It's about forgetting recent, important events or conversations completely. For example, someone might forget an entire conversation they had with their child an hour ago. They might ask the same question over and over, not because they weren't paying attention, but because the answer never got stored in their memory to begin with. Think of it this way: normal forgetfulness is a problem with retrieving the memory. A more serious issue is often a problem with storing the memory in the first place. The information never even makes it into the filing cabinet. This is why someone might repeatedly ask if they have a doctor's appointment, even after you've told them multiple times. The memory of that conversation just isn't there. This type of memory loss messes with routines. It can lead to missed medications, forgotten meals, or an inability to manage finances, things that directly threaten health and safety. So, the real difference maker? The impact. If memory lapses start to consistently interfere with work, social plans, or the ability to live independently, it's crossed the line from an annoyance to a genuine warning sign that needs to be discussed with a doctor. The second warning sign goes beyond just remembering things. It gets into a more complex set of brain skills we call executive functions, the mental toolkit that helps us plan, organize, make decisions, and solve problems. When these skills start to slip, It could be a subtle but serious early sign of a cognitive issue. First, what's normal? As we get older, it's not unusual to make an occasional mistake balancing a checkbook. You might get distracted and make a math error, but you usually catch and correct it. Maybe you're following a complex new recipe and you miss a step or have to reread the directions a few times. These are just momentary lapses in concentration. You might also find that heavy-duty multitasking feels a bit harder than it used to. Your brain's processing speed might slow down a bit, but your basic ability to reason and solve problems is still there. You can still make a plan and follow it, even if it takes a little longer. But the warning sign is a more consistent and serious struggle with these tasks. This isn't about one mistake. It's about a new, persistent difficulty in making a plan and sticking to it. For someone with this issue, a recipe they've made for years might suddenly feel like a foreign language. They might look at the ingredients and steps and feel completely overwhelmed, unsure of where to even start. Managing monthly bills can become a huge burden. They might struggle to track due dates, forget to pay bills, or have trouble understanding the numbers on statement. This isn't just a simple math error. It's about losing the ability to concentrate and follow logical steps. This can show up in other ways, too. Planning a simple grocery trip can become a major challenge. A person might struggle to make a list, forget key items, or feel confused and disoriented in the store. The ability to think abstractly and juggle information, which is key for problem solving, starts to fade. You might notice them taking much longer to do routine things, or they might avoid these tasks entirely because they become too stressful. This points to a decline in executive function, an early red flag for several types of dementia. If you or a loved one is consistently struggling with tasks that require planning and logical thinking, that's a big sign it's time to get a medical opinion. This third warning sign is all about routine. It's about a new and confusing difficulty with the how-to memory we use for tasks we've done thousands of times, things that should be second nature. Let's be clear about what's normal. It's perfectly okay to need help with new technology. Maybe you struggle to set up a new smartphone, figure out the settings on a smart TV, or program a new microwave. These are new things that require learning. You're not expected to know them automatically. Your ability to handle your daily, familiar routines is still solid. A warning sign, however, is when someone starts having trouble with tasks that are deeply familiar, things they've done for years. This isn't about learning something new. It's about forgetting how to do something old. A classic example is driving to a familiar place, like the grocery store or a friend's house they've visited for decades, and suddenly getting lost or confused. They might know where they want to go, but they can't remember the route to get there. At home, this can show up in all sorts of ways. Someone who is a fantastic cook might suddenly struggle to make a simple meal they've prepared hundreds of times. They might forget the order of steps or leave out key ingredients. Someone who loves a specific card game might forget the rules in the middle of playing. They might have trouble operating a TV remote or washing machine they've used for years. These aren't physical challenges, they're cognitive ones. It's like the brain's autopilot for familiar tasks is failing. The emotional toll of this can be huge. It's incredibly frustrating and scary to find that a simple, everyday task has become a confusing puzzle. People may become hesitant to do things on their own, pulling back from activities they once loved. The real difference is the nature of the task. Struggling with a new gadget is normal. Struggling with a task you've done effortlessly for most of your life is a major red flag. It suggests the brain is having trouble with long-established memories, a classic symptom that needs a professional evaluation. Our internal sense of time and our awareness of where we are, these things anchor us in reality. We take them for granted until they start to slip. This fourth warning sign, confusion with time or place, can be one of the most disorienting and scary symptoms for everyone involved. So, what's a normal, age-related change? It's very common to briefly forget what day of the week it is, especially during retirement or on a long vacation. You might think it's Wednesday when it's actually Thursday, but you usually figure out pretty quickly by glancing at a calendar or your phone. These are fleeting moments of confusion that resolve themselves and don't really disrupt your day. A warning sign is a much deeper and more persistent confusion. This isn't just about losing track of the day. It's about losing track of larger chunks of time, like the date, the season, or even the year. A person might think of a different season, getting ready to go out in a winter coat during the summer. They may have trouble understanding the idea of later or tomorrow, struggling to grasp why something isn't happening immediately. Even more concerning is confusion about place. A person might forget where they are or how they got there, even in very familiar surroundings like their own home. They could wake up in the morning and not recognize their own bedroom, or get lost on their own street during a walk. This disorientation can be terrifying and can lead to behaviors like wandering, as the person may be trying to find a place they remember as home, which could be a childhood home from decades ago. This happens because the brain is losing its ability to process the contextual clues that keep us oriented. The changing seasons, the daily schedule, the familiar layout of a house. These are all things our brain uses to ground us. When that ability is damaged, the world can become a very frightening place. So, what's the difference between a normal slip and a major warning sign? Briefly forgetting the day is normal. Not understanding that it's summer or not recognizing your own street is a serious sign that calls for immediate medical attention. Communication is how we connect with each other. It's how we express our needs, thoughts, and feelings. When this ability starts to break down, it can be incredibly isolating and frustrating. This fifth warning sign involves new and persistent problems with speaking or writing. First, what's normal? Everyone has moments where they can't find the right word. That tip of the tongue feeling is a common experience, especially as we get older. You might pause in a conversation to search for a word, and then either remember it or just describe it differently. You know, the thing you flip pancakes with. It's a temporary glitch and doesn't usually stop the conversation. A warning sign is when these language problems become frequent and really get in the way of communicating. This isn't just occasionally forgetting a word. It's a more serious breakdown. A person might stop in the middle of a sentence with no idea how to continue, completely losing their train of thought. They might struggle to find even simple words and may substitute them with strange or incorrect ones, making them hard to understand. For instance, they might call a watch a hand clock or a phone the ringing machine. Following a conversation can also become a huge challenge. They may have trouble keeping up, especially in a group. They might ask people to repeat themselves often, not because of a hearing problem, but because they're struggling to process the words. You may also notice they repeat the same stories or phrases over and over. Their vocabulary can shrink, and they may start talking less, relying more on gestures. The real difference is the impact on being able to have a meaningful conversation. While everyone fumbles for a word now and then, a consistent pattern of struggling with vocabulary, losing your train of thought, or having trouble following a discussion is a significant warning sign. It suggests the language centers of the brain may be affected, a common symptom in many forms of dementia. This is one of the most classic signs of memory problems, but the devil is in the details. The difference between normal misplacement and a real warning sign comes down to the frequency, where the items end up, and most importantly, the ability to retrace your steps to find them. Let's start with the everyday experience. We all misplace things. You might put your keys down and spend 5 frantic minutes looking, only to find them in your coat pocket. You might lose your phone and have to call it to find it under a sofa cushion. The key here is that you can usually think back, retrace your steps, and figure out where the item might be. You think, okay, I came in, put the mail down, took off my coat. And that mental process helps you find it. It's a temporary annoyance. The warning sign is a whole different ballgame. It involves putting objects in unusual or illogical places, and then being completely unable to retrace the steps to find them. For example, someone might put their wallet in the refrigerator or their house keys in a sugar bowl. There's no logical reason for the item to be there, and the person has no memory of putting it there. When they realize it's missing, they can't mentally backtrack. That ability to think sequentially, first I did this, then I did that, is gone. This leads to another very telling behavior, accusing others of stealing. Because the person has absolutely no memory of misplacing the item and can't imagine how it got lost, they may jump to the conclusion that someone must have taken it. This could be a huge source of conflict for families. It's important to understand this isn't coming from a place of malice. It's often the result of the brain's inability to recognize its own deficits. They genuinely believe they aren't forgetful. So from their point of view, theft seems like the only logical answer. So the crucial distinction is this. Losing your keys and finding them by retracing your steps is normal. Putting your keys in the freezer and then accusing a family member of stealing them is a significant warning sign that you should take seriously. Our judgment helps us navigate the world safely and make sound decisions. This seventh warning sign, a noticeable decline in judgment, can be one of the most dangerous symptoms, as it can directly affect a person's safety and financial security. Let's define what's normal. Everyone makes a bad decision once in a while. You might make an impulse buy you later regret or forget to get an oil change on time. These are isolated incidents. The key is that you usually recognize the mistake later, learn from it, and are capable of making good decisions most of the time. Your core ability to weigh consequences is still intact. The red flag goes up when this isn't just a one-time mistake, but a consistent pattern of poor judgment that's a real change from past behavior. This often shows up in financial matters. A person who was once frugal may start giving large amounts of money to telemarketers or falling for obvious scams. They might make huge, uncharacteristic purchases or become unable to manage their own bills. This isn't just one bad choice. It's a repeated failure to spot financial risks. Poor judgment also extends to personal safety. A person might neglect personal hygiene, no longer seeing the importance of bathing or changing clothes. They might dress inappropriately for the weather, like wearing a heavy coat in the summer or leaving the house without shoes. They may also show poor judgment in social situations, making inappropriate comments and losing the social filter they once had. This is often a result of changes in the frontal lobes of the brain, which control our judgment. What makes this sign so tough is that the person experiencing it often has no idea their judgment is impaired. They don't think their decisions are bad, and they may get defensive if questioned. The change is the critical factor. Someone who has always made questionable choices is one thing, but a person who was once responsible and prudent who starts showing consistently poor judgment is exhibiting a major warning sign that their cognitive health needs to be evaluated. Our moods naturally fluctuate. It's normal to have good days and bad days. This eighth warning sign, however, refers to significant and often rapid changes in mood and behavior that are out of character and seem to happen for no clear reason. Let's start with a normal baseline. It's completely normal to get a bit more set in our ways or irritable when our routines are disrupted as we get older. We all have days where we feel down, anxious, or grumpy. These feelings are usually tied to a specific cause, a stressful day, or not feeling well, and the mood typically passes. A warning sign is different. The mood shifts are often dramatic, frequent, and seem disconnected from what's going on. Someone might go from perfectly calm one moment to tearful or intensely angry the next, without any obvious trigger. You may notice a new and uncharacteristic level of anxiety, especially in unfamiliar situations. They might become fearful or suspicious of people they've known for years. Depression is also common, but it can look different in this context. Instead of just sadness, it may show up as increased irritability, social withdrawal, or a total loss of interest in everything. Another frequent change is agitation or restlessness. The person may pace, fidget, or become easily upset, particularly late in the day, a phenomenon often called sundowning. These changes in mood and behavior are not a choice. They are a direct result of the changes happening in the brain. The parts of the brain that regulate emotions can become damaged, leading to a loss of control. For families, these changes can be among the most difficult and painful to witness. It can feel like you're dealing with a different person. It's vital to remember that the person is not doing this on purpose. If you see rapid, unexplained, and persistent mood swings or a major shift in behavior, it's a strong signal that it's time to talk to a doctor. While moods can change by the hour, our personality is the very core of who we are. This ninth warning sign, a major change in personality, is often one of the most profound and difficult for loved ones, as it can feel like the person they know is slowly slipping away. First, what's a normal, age-related shift? As people get older, some minor changes can happen. Someone might become a little more reflective or prefer quiet evenings at home. They may develop specific routines and get a bit cranky when they're disrupted. These are generally subtle shifts that happen gradually over many years and don't fundamentally change who the person is. A warning sign is a much more dramatic transformation. For example, someone who was always the life of the party might become withdrawn, quiet, and passive, losing their spark. On the other hand, a person who is always sweet-natured and easygoing might become suspicious, fearful, or even paranoid. They might start to believe that longtime friends or family members are against them. Other personality changes can include becoming more impulsive, saying rude or inappropriate things without any regard for how others feel. They might seem to lose their empathy and become insensitive. You might also notice a new dependency. A previously self-reliant person may become very clingy and terrified of being left alone. These changes aren't a conscious choice or a moral failing. They're a direct symptom of the disease process affecting the brain's frontal lobes, which help regulate personality. It can be deeply painful to see someone you love act in ways that are so opposite to the person they've always been. Understanding that the illness is causing these changes is the first step toward coping. If you notice a significant shift in a loved one's fundamental personality, if they just don't seem like themselves anymore, it's a very strong signal that a comprehensive medical evaluation is needed. The final warning sign we'll discuss is a profound loss of initiative, often called apathy. This goes way beyond just feeling tired or unmotivated. It's a pervasive, passive state that can be one of the earliest and most common symptoms of some dementias. Let's distinguish this from normal behavior. It is perfectly normal to sometimes feel tired of work, chores, or social obligations. We all have days when we'd rather just sit on the couch than go out with friends. This is a temporary feeling of fatigue or boredom. You still have interests you pursue, and you can still motivate yourself to get things done when you need to. A warning sign is a much deeper and more persistent withdrawal from life. This isn't laziness. It's a true loss of motivation caused by changes in the brain. A person experiencing this might become extremely passive. They could sit in front of the TV for hours, not really watching, just staring. They might start sleeping a lot more than usual. They may lose all interest in hobbies they once loved. An avid gardener might completely abandon their garden, or a dedicated sports fan might stop following their favorite team. This loss of initiative also affects their social life. The person may pull away from friends and family, turning down invitations and avoiding conversation. It can take a huge amount of encouragement just to get them to participate in simple activities. When they do join in, they may seem emotionally flat or indifferent. This isn't a deliberate choice to be antisocial. It's that the internal drive to engage with the world has faded. For family members, this can be incredibly frustrating. It can feel like the person is giving up. But it's crucial to understand that apathy is a neurological symptom, not a character flaw. The part of the brain responsible for kickstarting behavior is being damaged. If you notice that you or a loved one has lost interest in almost all activities and has become consistently passive and withdrawn, it's a major warning sign that should be discussed with a doctor. So we've walked through the 10 key warning signs. Memory loss that affects daily life, trouble with planning, difficulty with familiar tasks, confusion about time or place, problems with language, misplacing things and being unable to backtrack, poor judgment, changes in mood, shifts in personality, and a loss of initiative. The common thread is the difference between a normal, occasional slip-up and a persistent change that gets in the way of daily life. If one or more of these signs feel deeply familiar, either for you or for someone you love, the single most important next step is to talk to a healthcare professional. It's natural to feel nervous, but getting checked is a critical step. An early diagnosis can provide an explanation for the symptoms, which can be a relief in itself. It also opens the door to support, resources, and potential treatments to help plan for the future. This journey can feel isolating, but you are not alone. To help build a community of support right here, please consider sharing your own experiences in the comments below. Your story can not only be healing for you, but can also provide comfort and insight to someone else going through the same thing. And if you found this video helpful, please share it with a friend or family member. You never know what a difference that simple act might make. Navigating the world of memory changes can be filled with uncertainty. We sincerely hope that by clearly laying out the differences between normal aging and these warning signs, we've helped replace some of that fear with clarity. Remember, forgetting where you put your keys is probably just a part of life. But struggling with familiar tasks, showing consistently poor judgment, or undergoing a significant personality change are signs that should not be ignored. Taking the step to see a doctor isn't an admission of defeat, it's an act of empowerment. It's about taking control of your health, getting answers, and creating a plan. An early diagnosis doesn't just give you a label, it gives you a roadmap, enabling you to live the best quality of life possible. Thank you for taking the time to educate yourself today. Be well, be proactive, and remember that knowledge is your greatest tool. Thanks for watching. Hit the bell icon for the daily updates. Please do like, subscribe, and share with your friends.